Jadon Sancho versus Erik ten Hag. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yep, Manchester United, the centre of yet another video. There is never a dull day at this football club, is there? This club doesn't know the meaning of having a normal or quiet day. There is always something buzzing around this football club, and it's been blown up by the media. Well, here we are again with another story blown up. And this time it centres around Jadon Sancho and the outburst that he made in public on social media against manager Erik ten Hag. This all comes in the aftermath of Manchester United's disappointing result and defeat to Arsenal yesterday. The Gunners were 3-1 winners at the Emirates Stadium with 2 stoppage time goals, punishing United and finishing off the game. The performance may not have been that bad, but the result definitely was. And in the aftermath of that game, Erik ten Hag was asked in a post-match interview, where was Jadon Sancho? His reply left a very frustrated and angry Sancho taking to social media to voice his frustration and reply and respond to his manager, causing the club another day of some unneeded embarrassment. I'll try and be open and honest about this as always, but from a rival fan's point of view, it is amusing to me. But I will always try and tackle these issues as honestly and as neutrally as possible. But before we get into all of that, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always incredibly greatly appreciated. And also, I encourage you to get involved in the comment section as well. I'm sure I have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, that will make for interesting and great reading down below. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's talk Jadon Sancho. Let's talk Manchester United. Let's talk Erik ten Hag and everything else in between on this story. So, like I say, yesterday, Arsenal took on Manchester United at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal won by 3-1. It was a poor result by Manchester United. Of course it was. They don't like losing to Arsenal. There's a rivalry there. But the performance wasn't bad. And on another day, by the thinnest of margins, it could have been a completely different story. But the main part about this is, again, we're talking about United because something has blown up again. So in the aftermath of the game, that causes a talking point. That causes a bit of concern at Manchester United. This football club, like I say, do not know the meaning of a normal or quiet day. There is always something kicking off in what has already been a pretty tough week for the majority of Manchester United supporters and everybody associated with the club. From obviously the transfer window not being the best transfer window that United could have possibly gone for and being a bit underwhelming in the end, to obviously the news that maybe the Glazers aren't selling up in the end and they may be putting their sale off for another couple of years, to the news that obviously United lost to Arsenal, the news surrounding Anthony, which I may or may not comment on depending on how legitimate those claims seem to be, and of course now this Jadon Sancho situation. This Jadon Sancho situation, which has blown up on social media in the aftermath of yesterday's game. And it all started with a post-match interview in which Erik ten Hag was asked about the absence of the England winger, to which he responded that Sancho hasn't been performing in training this week. He's not performed to the level of expectation that he desires and he wants from him. Also from the level that the club demands of him. There were also other options. They were blessed to have other options in that particular area. So because he wasn't training properly and because the others were, someone had to miss out. And unfortunately this time around it was Sancho. Within a small matter of time, Sancho took to social media to respond. And Sancho's statement read this: "Please don't believe everything you read. I will not allow people saying things that is completely untrue. I have conducted myself in training very well this week. I believe there are other reasons for this matter that I won't go into. I've been a scapegoat for a long time, which isn't fair. All I want to do is play football with a smile on my face and contribute to my team. I respect all decisions that are made by the coaching staff. I play with fantastic players and grateful to do so, which I know every week is a challenge. I will continue to fight for this badge no matter what. Big words from Sancho there. The unfortunate part is, I find it weird. I find it strange, and we're going to break down this statement. Please don't believe everything you read. Well, it was an audio clip. It was an interview, so it was audio. Maybe a bit nitpicky there, but I had to just throw that in. He says it's untrue. He has conducted himself in training very well this week. Well, that's not necessarily your decision. That's on your opinion. Of course, you're probably going to say that. I'm sensing there might be a sense of delusion in this. Ultimately, it is Erik ten Hag's decision. Ultimately, Erik ten Hag can only judge what he sees and therefore has to make the decisions on what he sees and what he knows alone. He's obviously going to say he conducted himself well to make him look good. Ten Hag's just put him out in the public saying that he's not put himself in the best possible way to be in contention to play in that game against Arsenal. I'm just sensing there that there's definitely more to that story, as he alludes to, with obviously, please don't believe everything you read, and also the fact that he says he's been made a scapegoat. A scapegoat by who? Ten Hag? He's probably pointing the finger at Ten Hag, but is there more to it? The fans? I know the fans aren't exactly best pleased with how you've conducted yourself on the pitch since your big money arrival from Borussia Dortmund several years ago. But at the same time, you haven't exactly hit the high levels of expectation or the potential that you had when you did arrive. So, is there more to it? Are you pointing the finger at the fans as well? Maybe there's teammates, maybe there's people at the club that he's also pointing the finger at there when he says that. Ultimately, of course, he is going to be trying to put himself into the best possible light by saying it's untrue. But there you go. And then the one that I take big grievance to in particular. I respect all the decisions that are made by the coaching staff. That's the one. Because otherwise, if you did, you'd take this matter up behind the scenes. You take it up personally. You wouldn't go to the public domain of social media to voice your frustration and your anger at the decision to be dropped. If you did respect it, you'd get your head down in training and you'd work harder. If you did respect it, you'd go to the manager behind the scenes where there's no cameras, no audio, no social media, no public domain, and you'd have a conversation and you'd work things out. Now, I've got to say, maybe we are blowing this out of proportion, but this story did intrigue me, so of course I'm going to be talking about it. I just think that it's very interesting the way he's conducted himself in this situation and the way that he's worded that statement. And like I say, the biggest grievance I have with it is the fact that he said he respects all the decisions that the coaching staff makes, but then goes to social media to explain that he's unhappy with the decisions that the coach has made in their judgment. I just find it a bit hypocritical and a bit weird, and I'll say this now, he's very fortunate that the transfer window is now closed. I think if the transfer window was still open, he'd be on the first flight out of Manchester and he'd be going on loan back to Germany, or he'd be going on loan to Spain or France or wherever the hell United could ship him to, and he'd be on the way out there. Whether it be loan or permanent transfer, he'd be on the first plane out of there. Because there are more reports coming out that state that Sancho and his people believe he hasn't had the same level of attentiveness and the same level of respect and the same level of what's the word I'm looking for? Just the same level of what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's like just the same level of chances. We'll say chances because I can't think of the word. The same level of chances that Antony has had. Now, the key thing to work out here is that Antony is a Erik ten Hag signing. Jadon Sancho is a Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signing. Sancho was inherited by Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag personally chose Antony as a player to drive this United team forward. Of course, he's going to have preferential treatment of Antony rather than Sancho. But when you look at the overall bigger picture, it's not as if Sancho has been lacking chances. It's not as if Sancho has been lacking opportunities. Sancho has actually played... He's played less minutes than Antony, but not by much. I don't think it's by much when you look at it, when he has been available. So, to say that, it's complete rubbish. It's complete crap. Like, he has had opportunities. He's just not performed well on the pitch. Now, I don't think Antony has either, but when you buy a player and you want them to work out, you're going to obviously try and bed them into your system ASAP. And the way to do that is to gain experience and obviously to try and bed them into the squad even more. You're going to be trying to play them as much as possible. Sancho has had opportunities. Sancho just hasn't taken them. And every time you see flashes and glimpses of a performance or something there with him, it's never consistent. It's never sustainable. It's never... it's just never there on a consecutive level for him to obviously get through that and to obviously start showing why he was rated so highly when he was playing for Dortmund, why he had so much potential when he was playing for Dortmund, and all of that stuff that made him a big money move from the German outfit to an outfit like Manchester United. We have never seen that on a consistent enough basis. And the interesting part about this whole story is if you do your research and you do your history on this, you'll know that Sancho's had a history of this. Sancho's had a history of ill discipline wherever he's gone, whether it be at Manchester City or whether it be at Borussia Dortmund. When he was at City, Guardiola forced him out the door at City because he claimed that Sancho didn't have the right mentality to get his head down in training, work hard, and try and break into that City outfit. Now, of course, this was a City side that were buying players left, right, and centre, and obviously had big money to do so. But he claims that Sancho, despite having a lot of talent, just didn't have the right attitude or mentality to break into a very competitive outfit in that Manchester City squad, which is why he got him out the door. Now, I'm not saying obviously it was easier at Dortmund, but obviously, City and Dortmund, two very different teams with two very different strategies in terms of transfer windows and bringing players through. And obviously, different kind of leagues, different kind of systems, all of that stuff. So when he went to Dortmund, of course, that's where he made a name for himself. But there were still issues at Dortmund. At Dortmund, he was fined for turning up late for training after international duty. He was also fined for taking a picture of him and a fellow teammate, I believe it was Manuel Akanji, getting a haircut during the COVID pandemic and lockdown and all of that stuff. So he was breaking rules there. He has a history of ill discipline. And even on England duty, the reason why he wasn't playing that often, particularly during the World Cup, was because of training level. His training level, according to Gareth Southgate, wasn't at the high standard for him to warrant much game time. So there's history of this. There's history of him not performing well in training. There's history of him being unprofessional. There's history of him not having the right attitude or mentality to break into squads that are highly competitive and very challenging. All of those things that have happened at Dortmund and City are now happening right now before our very eyes, what we can see. Which is why it's more believable to believe Erik ten Hag in this situation than it is to believe what Jadon Sancho's saying about not believing everything you read. I've been made a scapegoat. I've been this, I've been that. Maybe he should stop making excuses and maybe get his head down in training. Just saying that might be a reason, because like I say, if past experiences and past things are anything to go by, that is a reason as to why we're seeing what we're seeing right now. Now, was Erik ten Hag right or wrong to maybe call it out in the public domain? I think either way, he was in a difficult situation. Of course, when he does his post-match interview, of course, there's nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. Now, he could have lied. he could have lied and he could have said that maybe Sancho was injured, maybe Sancho was feeling a bit ill. But it seems to me that the annoyance and anger of Jadon Sancho was always going to post this kind of response to Ten Hag in the public domain anyway. So it would look worse on Ten Hag if he was to lie about it. He could have easily ignored the question, replied with no comment, something along those lines, or said that it's a private matter, we will not be speaking in the public domain about it. Again, hindsight, it may have been the best, but again, I still would have reckoned just Sancho might have done something like this anyway, in response to this. So it does beg the question: what would you have done in that situation if you were Erik ten Hag? Personally, sometimes calling players out in the public domain demands a response. Sometimes. Sometimes it can have a positive effect, sometimes it can have a negative effect. In this situation, it's had a negative effect. And Ten Hag has not been afraid to call out players or to drop players before. We remember last season with Marcus Rashford, he dropped him when he was late for a team meeting before the game. Rashford replied with scoring the winning goal on that same game. That's how you reply. You do not do this kind of thing. And I know that Rashford probably will admit himself, maybe he's been unprofessional in the past, maybe he's not had his head in the right space and all that kind of stuff under previous managers, Ralf Rangnick, Van Gaal, Ten Hag, not Ten Hag, Mourinho, whoever it may be in some cases. But like I say, last season player power at Manchester United was slowly but surely being gotten rid of, which is why you saw so many big decisions being made, like dropping Rashford for disciplinary reasons, like getting rid of Cristiano Ronaldo when he did that interview with Piers Morgan, like doing all of that stuff with David De Gea and everything. So it did seem like player power was slowly evaporating at Manchester United and disappearing. Whereas obviously it had been around and had been evidently around for a number of years under previous managers that had gotten managers sacked, it seemed. But slowly but surely now it seems to be coming back. You've got Harry Maguire who refuses to leave. You've got so many other players that are refusing to leave Manchester United for a comfy life of sitting on the United bench and picking up big money. This is United's problem. This is what United have created. And, you know, whether you agree with Sancho and the way that he went about his business or whether you agree with Ten Hag, either way, the issue that remains is when you scratch the surface, it's the way the club has been run. The Glazers have created this issue, and the Glazers not selling up is a big problem in itself, and the Glazers refusing to sell certain players has obviously created this issue that player power is still alive and well at Manchester United, and is a big issue. What happens next with Sancho is anyone's guess. I would imagine he's going to be frozen out. I would imagine he's going to face discipline. He's going to be fined. All of that stuff. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it on this particular subject from this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this Jadon Sancho situation? What do you make of him versus Erik ten Hag? What do you think about the club's involvement in this? What do you think will happen next? All of that stuff I'm sure will make for great and interesting reading down below in the comment section. So do get involved down there. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. And I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Have a good night. See you soon.